We have research to show that 60 days of meditation, 5 days a week, will lengthen your life. The telomeres, the little shoestrings on the end of your DNA, get longer. That means your biological age is changing. So we have the evidence now to show people what's possible. We have brain scans that are so outside of normal that when neuroscientists see them, they're blown away, because the amount of energy that's in the brain during this transcendental moment is hundreds of times outside of normal.
Wow.
I mean, you can't make your brain do that. Something is happening to you, and that person's having a transcendental moment. And we now know that we can predict it, and we now know that we can induce it. So then there's the evidence there. Then you take our community and you see people with stage 4 cancer, with Parkinson's disease, with myasthenia gravis, with lupus, with MS, with brain injuries, with rare genetic disorders, with vertigo, tinnitus, kidney failure, all kinds of health conditions, come to a week-long event, and then at the end of that event, they make significant strides in getting beyond the emotions of the past. Now think about this. The science says that the environment signals the gene. That's epigenetics. The end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion. So as long as you're living by the same emotion every single day, you're signaling the same gene in the same way. And if that gene is related to a survival emotion, a stress hormone, then you're downregulating the gene and you're creating disease. So when the person trades that emotion and really breaks free from the chains of their past, and now they're feeling an elevated emotion, well, now they're dialing down the gene for MS, and they're upregulating the gene for health and balance. And so the person, you'll say to them, where's the disease? Well, I'm not the same person. I'm not the, and the side effect of that is a transformation and healing. So the funny thing about it is the person who has the healing is not talking about the healing. Whether it's blind people seeing, deaf people hearing, we have crazy evidence now. What they're talking about is how amazing they feel, because they're refreshed, they got a new lease on life.
Yeah.
And so now we have evidence in our research, and that silences the critic to show that what's possible for people.
Want to be happy? Build a life, not just a business. Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know there's something more inside you too. You've got Michael Jordan level genius at something. So today, let's live your best belief life and learn the 10 habits that you need to start before next year. Enjoy. Habit number 2, create a finisher list with Brendan Burchard.
Having my Friday finisher list. What does that mean? It means, like, I've got a list here of the things that have to happen by Friday. It's my Friday finisher list. It means that Monday, when I go to work, I am aware of all the things I need to get done and complete by Friday, and that's what I use that unit of time called a week for, is making sure I get all these things done by Friday. I know that by Friday, 5 p.m. or whatever time I want to finish working on Friday, that these list of deliverables have happened and they are done and they are complete for the week. And if I can stay on track with that, oh my gosh, the year just proceeds so much more effectively.
Habit number 3, start getting up early with Robin Sharma.
The key thing super producers do, the best of the best, they get up early. So here's what I wanted to share with you. I wanted to literally deconstruct the 5 a.m. club concept, which is just, you get up at 5 o'clock, you give yourself 1 hour. In the Greatness Guide, I call it the holy hour, which you're not in the world, you're not checking your notifications, you're not anywhere near technology, you're not watching the news, you're not chit-chatting, you're not daydreaming, you are literally running a 1 hour period of practice to set up your mindset, your heart set, your health set, your soul set, the 4 interior empires that I teach at Personal Mastery Academy, so that by 6 o'clock, you feel fundamentally different. Now, you might be saying, Robin, what? 5 a.m.? Well, if you're feeling that, any good idea is going to disrupt you. Any new idea will shake you up a little bit. And so if you're feeling I couldn't do that, if your mind is full of chatter on excuses, if you say, Robin, I can't win the battle of the bed, I can't put mind over mattress. My father couldn't get up early, mom couldn't get up early, grandpa used to sleep in. I just don't have the genetics to allow me to get up early. Yes, you do. We know from the research of University College London that it takes 66 days to wire in neurobiologically a new habit. 66 days. And as you know from my brain tattoo that is very well known, all change is hard at first. If it wasn't hard at first to get up early, it wouldn't be valuable change. And it's messy in the middle, and it's beautiful at the end. So if you want to get up early, if you want to have a gargantuan competitive advantage, if you want to have a massive opportunity, because most people, they might have great products, they might have a great mindset, they might be great entrepreneurs or great performers, they might be working at a great company, they might have a corporate culture that is fantastic, but most people on the planet will never get up at 5 a.m. And that's why it is a gargantuan competitive advantage for you. The rest of the world is pretty much sleeping. Those of us who love getting up at 5 o'clock, we know it's the quietest time of the day. Imagine this, having 1 hour from 5 to 6 just for yourself. Imagine 1 hour where there's such a stillness in the air, where you can actually breathe and think and be. And the Spartan warriors say it so well. And this, if you're interested in this concept, the book is that I've written is the 5 a.m. Club. And one of the lines I use comes from the Spartan warrior credo. And the Spartans, those great warriors, here's what they used to say. The one who sweats more in training bleeds less in war. And so 5 to 6, your holy hour is simply, it's a training practice. It's a training ground like the great warriors, so that when you go out in the world, you bleed a lot less. You have a lot more focus, a lot more energy. You're focused on your priorities and your values versus society's priorities and their values. And you know what I want to say to you? Some days I get up at 4:45 to start my 5 a.m. protocol, and I feel exhausted, and I don't want to do it. And I say, why have I been teaching this 5 a.m. club concept for so many years to the leaders I work with and the people who come to the Titan Summit? And people like Richard Branson have been on my stage, and Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, and Shaquille O'Neal was in the room at the Titan Summit a number of years ago. And why do I teach this? And why do I teach the protocol? Well, here's the key. Not only will it fundamentally change the way your days play out, but the way you feel at 6 is very different from the way you feel when you first wake up. So give yourself 66 days. Please understand that getting up early is a gargantuan competitive advantage, and it will be the single best thing, or certainly one of the single best daily habits that you could possibly install in your life if you're seriously interested in legendary leadership, being a world builder, and a history maker.
Habit number 4, stop hitting the snooze button with Mel Robbins.
This is a productivity killer that most of us don't know about it. It has to do with waking up. Now, when you think about being productive, if you got a big day and you got a bunch of stuff you need to get done, most of us focus on when. When do I need to get up in order to get everything done? That's not what you need to focus on. The thing that really impacts your productivity is how. How do you wake up? And here's the deal. If you're somebody like I used to be that hits the snooze button, that kills your productivity for at least 4 hours. Let me explain. You have to understand this. The snooze button creates a mental state, a state in your brain that is called sleep inertia. It's so bad it actually has a name. Here's what it is. When you and I go to bed, we sleep in cycles. We sleep in cycles of like 90 to 110 minutes all night long. And right before you wake up, the sleep cycles, they stop, and your body goes into a wake-up mode, okay? Your brain is starting to slowly wake up so that it can start the day. When your alarm goes off, you're in wake-up mode. Your brain is now ready to do its best work. However, if the alarm goes off and you hit the snooze button, guess what you've just done? You've just made your brain go back into a sleep cycle. Your brain is now in a mode that takes about 90 to 110 minutes to complete. You just rebooted the system. So when your alarm goes off and you get up 15 minutes later, you're now in major trouble. And the reason why you're in trouble is because your brain is still locked into a sleep cycle. And this is where sleep inertia comes in. You know how when you hit the snooze button, you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I did not get enough sleep last night. You feel so groggy. You kind of feel like this mental hangover. That is sleep inertia. Here's the deal. Your brain, the cortic region of your brain, which is responsible for decision-making, attention, alertness, self-control, that sucker is still in a sleep cycle. And now that you're awake, it's going to take the cortical region almost 4 hours to actually snap out of that sleep cycle. That's why you feel groggy. It's because the part of your brain that's responsible for critical thinking and being alert, it's actually still asleep. If you don't already do this, you've got to train yourself to be the kind of person that doesn't use the snooze alarm. Because when you hit the snooze alarm, you're not only putting your brain in a state of sleep inertia, you are directly impacting your productivity, your alertness, and your brain processing for the first 4 hours that you're awake. That's making life harder. I'm all about making life easier. So tomorrow, when the alarm goes off, I don't care how tired you are, I don't care how much you don't want to get out of bed, I want you to remember this. I want you to remember that you've got to wake up and give your brain its best shot to do its best work. And the way you're going to do it is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, turn off that alarm and get up. Seize the day and go be productive.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Habit number 5, optimize your environment with James Clear.
Let's say that you wanted to build a better. I'll give you an example of breaking a good or building a good habit and breaking a bad one. So one of the laws is to make it obvious. And this largely comes down to like what we're exposed to each day. And minimalism and simplicity plays a big role in this. In the book, I call it environment design. That's basically the strategy. So for a long time, I realized that I brushed my teeth twice a day, but I didn't floss consistently. And when I looked at that habit, one of the reasons that I wasn't flossing consistently is because the floss was hidden in the drawer in the bathroom. So I just wouldn't see it, like I wouldn't open up the drawer and remember. So I bought a little bowl and got some of the pre-made flossers and put them in the bowl and placed it right next to my toothbrush. So now I brush my teeth, put the toothbrush down, pick the flosser up, it's right there. Just that one little environment design change is pretty much all I needed to do to build the habit of flossing every day. On the other side, let's say, a lot of people feel like they spend too much time watching TV or playing video games or just looking at a screen. But if you walk into pretty much any living room, where do all the couches and chairs face? They all face the television. So it's like, what is that room designed to get you to do? It's designed to get you to watch TV. So there are a variety of levels to this. You could, for example, take the remote and take it off of the coffee table and put it inside a drawer. Or you could take the television and put it inside like a wall unit or a cabinet so that you don't see it. You could also increase the friction of the task. So you could like take the batteries out of the remote after each use, and then it's an extra 5 or 10 seconds to put it in. Maybe that's just enough time for you to think, do I really want to watch something, or am I just doing this mindlessly? You could unplug the TV after each individual use, and then only plug it in if you can say the name of the show you want to watch, so you can't like mindlessly browse on Netflix. And I mean, if you really wanted to be extreme about it, you could take the TV off the wall, put it in the closet, and then only take it out when you really wanted to watch something. But the point here, and this is kind of the principle of environment design in general, which is You want to put fewer steps between you and the good behaviors and more steps between you and the bad ones. And imagine the cumulative impact of living in an environment that exposes you to the cues of your positive habits and reduces the cues of your negative habits. It's kind of like you're just gently being nudged in the right direction each day. And that's just one of the ways that you can sort of design a system that leads you into better habits. In my personal life, like there's a moment around 5:15 each night. My wife gets home from work, and either we change into our workout clothes and we go to the gym, or we don't change into our workout clothes and we watch, reruns of The Office and order takeout or whatever. And really the next 2 hours are kind of determined by that decisive moment of whether we change into our workout clothes or not. If we change clothes, then like everything else is going to happen automatically. We're going to drive to the gym. I'll get under the bar. It's already pre-decided basically. So one of the realizations of this, and it comes back to your kind of central question of what are the most important habits to build, or are there ones that ripple into other areas of life? If you can just master maybe 5 or 10 decisive moments throughout the day, these little kind of 2-minute chunks that determine the next block of time, you really only have to focus your attention and energy on that. And the rest of it kind of comes easily. You don't have to do that much if you can master the right moments. It's kind of like judo for your personal habits. You apply the pressure in the right place and everything else kind of falls in line.
Habit number 6, set deadlines for yourself with John Assaraf.
You've got 8, 10, 12, 15 hours in a day to get shit done. And most people are wasting time. And this is your precious asset. Not the hourglass, not the sand, but time. Bruce Lee said, if you value your life, you will value your time, because time is what makes up your life. So let's talk about the concept of how to achieve more in one day than you do in a week. Here is something to consider. We all have, from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed, time, a block of time. And it's comprised, obviously, of, our day is comprised of 86,400 seconds in a day. Now, here's what I want you to think about. If somebody gave you $86,400, okay, for every 24-hour period of time, number one, would you be happy? Would you be like, yeah, I just won the lottery, $86,400 to start off every day? Wouldn't you invest that money wisely? And what if they also said to you that if you don't spend the $86,400, you lose it? It's gone forever. How many of you would spend those $86,400 all the way to the end and maximize it? If you would spend it, just hit the like or the love button, because I would spend it as phenomenally as I could. And so here's the thing to remember. Everybody has the same amount of seconds. Everybody has 86,400 seconds. And so you don't have less or more time than anybody else. And that takes me to the first point that I want to share with you, and that was, there's no such thing as time management. You cannot manage time. The only thing that you can learn how to do better is manage what you do in time. Now, if you analyze or do any research on highly productive people, they are 2, 3, 4, 5 times more productive in what they do than other people. Everybody, and I mean everybody, is freaking busy. Busy with friends, busy with family, busy with kids, busy with a job, busy with their career, busy doing shit. Some of it's productive, some of it is not. Write this down, okay? Somebody type this out. Don't confuse activity with productivity. Write it down for me. Somebody, write it down. Don't confuse activity with productivity. Okay? So, what does that mean? It means that most people are doing busy work and they're confusing. Thank you, Sharina. They're confusing being busy and being tired at the end of the day with getting the most important things done. So that's why I said there is no such thing as time management. The only thing you can manage is what you do in the block of time while you're awake. When you create an action item or a list of what you need to do, and you have a deadline to achieve it, your brain actually goes into a hyper-focused mode when you create self-imposed deadlines and urgency factors. So, when we teach our clients, whether they're employees or homemakers or business owners or doctors or lawyers, makes no difference. One of the things that we teach them, in addition to having a goal and in addition to having things that need to get done, is to create a deadline. There's something called the Pareto principle that says that if you focus on the 20% of the things that are the most important and you set deadlines to achieve them, you will get your brain to focus on getting those achieved. So, in addition to something called the Pareto principle, there's also something called Parkinson's law. When you combine the two, Pareto's principle and Parkinson's law, to say, I'm going to make a list of everything that I need to get done, but I'm going to prioritize the things that are the most important, the most urgent, and I'm going to put those onto my calendar to get them done first, not last, not after I've done all my busy work, not after I've been on the phone, I've returned 200 emails, I've texted 16 friends, I've played on Facebook for 2 hours. No. That's what average people who are busy do, versus above average people who are productive do. You have to change your mind. Shift the way you're thinking about your time and what you do.
Habit number 7, focus on being a learner with Tom Bilyeu.
The single most important part in learning to be honest with yourself is to accept that you must have self-esteem. And the problem is most people build their self-esteem around something stupid. So most people build their self-esteem around being right, being good, being smart, being worthy, and they see all of those as permanent traits. And so anything that challenges them being smart, which is my big one. Oh God, even to this day, if I really want to get into a bad place, I'll just go hang around people that are just legitimately smarter than me and then focus on how cool being smart is. Now I can be around them when I value myself for being the learner, but the second I let myself slip into just wanting to be cool for being smart, then being around those people is like getting kicked in the face. It sucks, man. And so I went through this phase in my life that I call the king of remedial jobs phase. And so this is post film school, post like realizing that I don't have talent. I just need to be smart, man. I just need to build myself back up by being smart. And so I would apply for jobs. Like I sold video games retail, and I sold insurance door to door. I did anything that I could where I knew that the person interviewing me at some point during the interview was going to say, why are you applying for this job? Like, you're too smart for this. And be like, I'm right where I need to be, which is crazy and sad, but absolutely true. And so I did that for a couple years. And in that phase, I just didn't want my intelligence to be challenged. So flash forward now, I'm working with these two entrepreneurs. They hire me as a copywriter. I'm in an entrepreneurial environment for the first time, and they're clearly smarter than me. That isn't even up for debate. And I'm arguing with them for this idea because I needed to win. I couldn't take another time where it's like, they're smarter than me. So I was like, all right, I'm going to win on this idea. And somewhere in the argument, I realized I was wrong. And there was a voice in my head screaming, you're wrong, dude. You are wrong. You know you're wrong. Shut up. Like, stop pushing for this. What are you doing? And I kept going, and I finally whittled them down, and they finally just gave up. And so they said, yep, we'll do it your way. Fine, whatever. And right then and there, it's the one time in my life that was truly a lightning rod moment where my life can be divided before and after. And that moment was realizing that I was telling everybody that I wanted to get rich, but the way I was acting was like I just wanted to feel smart. And I thought, hey, no judgment. I'm totally cool. Whichever it is, like, we can craft a life where that will be wonderful. So if what you really want is to just be smart and to feel smart all the time, you have to quit. You've got to get out of this environment because they make you feel stupid all the time. And that's not a great place to be. Feeling badly about yourself all the time for any reason, even if it's self-inflicted, it's not a bad scenario, or it's not a good scenario. You've got to get out of it. So I was like, okay, so that's option one, get out of this scenario, go back to being the king of remedial jobs. Or if you actually want to get rich, start acting in accordance with it. Start making decisions based on that. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to give up my self-esteem. I'm going to have to like stop worrying about feeling good about myself. And I was like, ooh, that is clearly a losing proposition. There's no way to come in and feel horrible every day and think that I will have the energy to see this through. So I was like, God, what else could I do? And I was like, well, I guess I could build my self-esteem around something that is sort of impervious to being around people that are smarter than me. And what would that be? Being the learner. And I thought, okay, well, I could choose to do that. I could choose to build my self-esteem around being not right, but finding the right answer. Not being smart, but working hard to learn. And so that became just like the core of my existence. I decided in that moment, I'm going to start valuing myself for how rapidly I can admit when I'm wrong, how much I learn, how much time and energy I put into learning. And once I switched that and I switched my identity and my behaviors around to being the learner, then all of a sudden, everything changed. And that's when I went on hockey stick growth, because all of a sudden, if we were arguing and I realized you were right, I'd be like, dude, he's right. You're totally right. I see it. Oh my God, thank you so much. And so I started earning a reputation of I never just backed into a corner. I never argued for something just because it was my idea. I was legitimately on the hunt to find the right answer. And so now I'm getting the internal feedback of, hey, you said that you were going to always focus on being the learner. You're doing it. You said you'd always admit when you're wrong. And I would try to shorten that timeline down. So I wasn't like taking an hour to finally admit it, or even 3 minutes, that I was trying to get to it like, dude, if I realize I was wrong, 3 seconds, 30 seconds max, like I'm, just finally saying it. Look, you're totally right. I'm with you. Yep, I see it. And then the world was like, whoa, working with this guy is awesome. He's not trying to take credit for other people's ideas. He will change on what he was saying in a heartbeat when he fights for what he believes in, but the second you can convince him, he's convinced, and then he moves on. And it just became a really awesome environment. Wow. So that was hugely transformative, but it forces you to constantly be on the lookout for where am I wrong.
Habit number 8, stop procrastinating with Miles Monroe.
My greatest fear tonight is very simple, and that is I am afraid that most of you in this room and in this auditorium tonight, and perhaps watching this program, you are going to add to the treasure and the wealth of the cemetery. And that makes me very sad, because buried inside of you are dreams that you still carry, ideas that God planted in your heart that you still haven't done yet. Paintings that you've been planning to paint, and books you've been thinking about writing, and paintings you keep procrastinating about. And what I'm so concerned about is we'll never see your painting. We'll never sing your song. We'll never read your book, and we'll never operate in your business, and we'll never experience the invention that you keep procrastinating on. I trust that you will rob the graveyard of your treasure. Yes. I pray that you will disappoint the cemetery. I pray that when the morgue gets your carcass, it'll be empty.
Habit number 9, listen to your intuition with Lewis Howes.
I was 23, 24, I read The Alchemist.
Oh, it's my favorite.
And like the end of the book is like, the treasure's within you. Don't go look around the world trying to find the treasure. I think that was pretty much the ending. So sorry to give it away if you haven't read it, but the treasure was within me. I was like, oh wow, I have all the answers I need within me. Yeah. And then I started like asking myself the questions. Now I'm a professional question asker to everyone else also now, but I've always been asking myself the questions. Mm-hmm. And I've found that my intuition has never been wrong. And I've gone against my intuition a lot, specifically in relationships. Like I'll get into relationships, I'm like, this is not the right thing for me. But something is telling me like, I want to conquer this, or I want to help this person. I'm desiring this. And then I stay in it way too long. And my intuition's like, get out. But my head is like, yeah, but what about this? And it's fulfilling this need. And every time something doesn't work out, and I knew it wasn't going to work out, my intuition is telling me like, why are you doing this?
And habit number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is show up with Grant Cardone.
Showing up means showing up. It don't mean you got to the office. You understand? It doesn't mean you came to work. For me, showing up means I show up. I've been showing up since I was 25 years old, man. Before that, I wasn't showing up. I was showing off. I was acting a fool, being a fool. High school, I didn't show up. I went to class, I never showed up. My body went in the room. See, showing up doesn't mean you got there. Showing up means you got there, and then you showed up again, and then you showed up again, and then you showed up again. It means you show up for the class, you show up for the homework, you show up for the class, you show up for the homework, you show up for the test, you freaking get a perfect grade. It means you keep showing up to the next level. And I hear a lot of people talking about showing up. You know, showing up's not everything. Let me tell you something. Showing up, when you show up the right way, Johnny, you got to put your seatbelt on. When you show up the right way, showing up is 100% a success. That means you show up and then you show up again, and you show up again, you keep getting better at your game. You can't keep showing up as the old you. You got to show up as the new you. You know, if Mercedes-Benz, if they just kept building this vehicle the way they used to build it and didn't keep showing up with new technology, new suspension, new seats, new choices, new colors, you know, the matte black, the red guts, new navigation system. You got to have a new game every day, baby. You got to have a new game every day, and the follow-up. You got to have a new follow-up. Can't do the same thing you did that didn't work yesterday. We're doing a 10X growth conference. I'm doing a 10X this year. I'm not doing the same 10X I did last year. It's a new year, new time, new audience, new speakers. Now, that being said, when I show up for the 10X growth conference in Las Vegas on 2/20/2020, I just spent 6 hours this morning working out what we're doing. Okay? I'm not going to show up the way I did last year, jumping out of a damn plane. I'm going to show up in a different way. Okay? In a different way, in a unique way. But I am not going to abandon the things that work for the audience and for myself. So you got to find this really, really cool mixture between repeating what works and showing up as a new person all the time. If you're reading a book, okay, you're listening to music, going to an event, speaking at an event. Let's say you're speaking at an event and it's the 700th time you did that presentation. You got to show up new again. Johnny comes to work with his camera, and we're doing a show today. Johnny needs to show up new, looking for new angles, new colors, new. You got to show up every day new, folks. You're new, man. You're new. Ladies and gentlemen, you're new. Every day you're new. Or, guess what? You're old. Nobody wants old. I don't want to get old. I don't want stale. I don't want yesterdays. I don't want leftovers. I know when somebody's repeating something rote. They're just giving me the same. I don't mind some bullshit, but it's got to be fresh. I need some fresh bullshit. So I don't mind a little bit of bullshit. I just don't want the same thing. Okay, that guy's told that story 1,000 times, and it looks like the thousandth time. Not in a good way either. So you got to keep showing up. Showing up means you're looking for deeper levels to show up, to pay attention. That's what I do every day. Every day I come to work, I'm like, show up, man. Show up for every little problem. Show up for every little opportunity. Show up for every little new nuance, little angle, little particle, little movement. That's why I see all this stuff. Why is that not cleaned up? Why is this not cleaned up? Why did somebody pick that up? Who's that new person here? Hey, you feeling all right today? How many times have I asked you that before? You all right today? I know it's the little things. It's simple. It costs nothing to do this. Show up. It costs you nothing. It makes all the difference. And it makes all the difference, man, showing up. You'll see things that no one else sees. And you know, the good news is anybody can do this. You just got to make a commitment to show up.
You have the power to control your world, how you think, how you act, your mindset with the words that you speak. When you use weak language, you signal to yourself that you are weak. You signal to yourself that your goals aren't important. You signal to yourself that you are not worth it. You lose respect for yourself, and the people around you don't respect you either. We need to stop using weak language and pay attention to the words that you're speaking to others and to yourself. Now, this is not an easy task because most of the words that you're using, the way that you talk to others and to yourself, you're on autopilot, you're on cruise control. It just happens. You've been doing this for years or decades. And so switching it is not going to happen overnight. But if you pay attention to the next 3 things that I'm going to share with you, it can have a dramatic impact on your self-confidence, on the goals that you have for yourself, and on the outcomes you create for yourself in the world. Let's do it. Number 1, I can't, I'm not, I don't. What you say after those 3 things shapes your identity. It speaks to how you think and speak about yourself. So I can't be an entrepreneur. I can't be a leader. I can't be a YouTuber. I can't. Especially this one. When you say I can't, pay very, 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 very close attention to what follows and try to shift it from I can't to either I choose not to or I can't yet. I'm not a good salesperson. I'm not funny. I'm not the kind of person who follows through. Again, pay close attention and try to shift it to not yet. I don't program. I don't know how to make money. I don't think like that. Switch I don't to I don't yet. I can't, I'm not, I don't. Those statements are final. Those statements don't allow for growth. Those statements are how you feel about yourself and don't allow for the stretch. They don't allow you to get better. And so either eliminate them from your vocabulary or change them to yet. Number 2 is catch your cruise control. The way that you have been speaking about yourself, the way that you have been talking to yourself has been happening using the same words for years, maybe even decades. It's so automatic for you. You are on cruise control. You are on autopilot. You think small and talk negatively about yourself without even thinking about it. You need to catch your cruise control. And listen, don't be too hard on yourself. This is so ingrained. These patterns have been around for so long. You are just auto-defaulting to cruise control that most of these times you will not even catch it. You will not catch 99% of these moments, of these words, of these languages that you're using for yourself. But if you have the awareness, if you have the intention, if you have the desire, every now and then you will catch it. Another quick hack is to enlist a friend, enlist the people around you, your wife, your husband, your team, your kids especially. My son Hayden loves calling me out on things. Enlist their help. Tell them, this is where I want to play a bigger game. This is where I'm frustrated with myself. This is where I keep talking badly about myself and putting myself down. These are the words, the language that I need to change. And every time you hear me talking this way, I need you to bring it to my awareness and let me know because I want to catch my cruise control. For me personally, it's around complaining. Anytime I complain, I want my wife, I want my team, I want my son, I want the people around me to say, Evan, you are complaining. Right there, that was a complaint. Eat it, right? I'm happy for them to hug me with it, to yell at me with it. I just want them to let me know. Now, when I told everybody, they said, listen, you barely complain. You're like the least complaining person that we know. Awesome, thank you, I'm humbled, but I still complain. And I probably complain a lot, and a lot of the times I'm missing it. And so please, 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 even if you think I'm great at it, if you catch me complaining, I want you to call me out on it. So enlisting your friends can be really helpful because you will likely not catch most of them yourself, but it's imperative that you start working on catching your cruise control. Step number 3 is manual override. You have caught your cruise control. You have found the autopilot. It's about to happen again. This negative talk that you're about to speak out into the world about yourself or your ideas, you putting yourself down is about to come out again or has just come out. What do you do about it? Because this is really important. If you catch yourself playing small or talking negatively about yourself, if you catch it and you don't do anything, it actually makes it worse. It's better that you don't even catch it at all. If you catch it and you recognize I am playing small right now and you ignore it and you don't change your behavior, you are building that identity for yourself that you are somebody who is playing small. You are consciously building that identity for yourself and you need to stop it. It makes it worse. Where when you do catch it, when you find yourself falling into those patterns, those behaviors that you don't want anymore, whether you find it yourself or somebody's calling you out on it, what do? You need to kick your manual override into action and take the action that you want because that starts building the positive habit. That starts building the positive respect. This is how you build respect for yourself. This is how you start building the muscle. This isn't just a zero-sum game. This isn't just we go back to neutral. When you catch it, you either go sliding down or you go propelling up. The choice is yours. When you catch yourself playing small, when you catch yourself coming off of cruise control, you have to do the thing that builds the self-respect up and speak positively about yourself and do the thing that you are scared to do.
The most powerful way and the easiest way to change your thermostat setting is by adding people to your circle, very close proximity, that live at a higher temperature in that area than you do. For example, in your faith, let's just say, you're a 75-degreer in your faith. You've already seen this. You can't possibly begin to regularly associate with good, godly people who pray regularly, who try to live righteously, and they're at 110, 120 degrees of faith in their life, and not have that proximity heat you up. Now, you won't get to where they are. You'll get to somewhere between where you are at 75 degrees and they are at 110. Over time, you become 100-degreer. And you alter the thermostat setting through association. Same in business. If you and I were to hang around each other every single day, and let's say you were a 75-degreer in business, hypothetically, and I don't know that about you, but let's just say you were, and I was 150-degreer, and we hung around each other all the time. Don't you think through that association, especially if you had 2 or 3 or 4 people like me in your life, that just over time, you don't even feel it. You're at 80, you're at 85, you're at 90, you're at 95, and that's where you are. We understand the power of this with our children, because we know at school the teachers have influence over them, they're mentors, but the people that really have influence over our children are their friends, because they're around them all the time. And so we know it sets their temperature. This is true in fitness. If you're a 75-degree of fitness, and every meal, every day at the gym, all your associations, hypothetically speaking, were with someone who was shredded and fit the way you wanted to look at 150 degrees, you know over time you get heated up. And so you can't be with someone every day, you can't be with them all the time, but the key is to get more proximity in the areas that matter with people whose thermostat setting is higher than yours. I am a product. You are listening to me right now because I've been so obsessed with this concept of adding new associations to my life that live in the areas that I want to improve in at higher temperatures than me. It's my obsession to this day. I'll give you a secret. One of the reasons I even do my show is I know that I'm influencing many of these guests in the areas that matter most to them through our proximity, and in some cases they do it for me. And so I'm obsessed with the power of association, but I don't just associate. See, all personal says, yeah, you're the 5 people you hang around. Kinda. You really are the 5 to 10 people you hang around if you're conscious all the time of studying them, of observing them, of asking questions, of the fact that you should be altering your thermostat setting. That's when it really moves. It's not just hanging around. It's consciously and intentionally spending time with people where you allow it to impact you, where you study them, where you really observe them, where you're open to their influence. There has to be a level of trust before you can do that, where you surrender yourself to them. But it's not just being around them. It's intentionally being around people that alters that thermostat setting. So power of association is the main way to do it.
Over my career, and I've been in business over 20 years now. People from all around the world, students at every level, whether they are newly into launching their business or they've been in business themselves for 10, 15 years, ask the question, how do I overcome fear? I'm about to disrupt you completely, because I am not going to give you a strategy to overcome fear. Because if I even attempt to give you a strategy, and I know we're always looking at stuff, reading things, how to overcome fears. There are probably 10 steps to overcoming fear somewhere out there. They weren't written by me, and I could never write it. Because I don't think you wait to overcome fear to live the life of your dreams or the one that you deserve, or to blow your own mind. I personally, and I'm teaching you from my life lessons, from what I've studied, what I've applied, what I've implemented, what I've fallen from, what I've soared from, what I've gotten up from. And I don't think you focus on learning how to overcome fear, though there are things that helps to mitigate your fear. Information mitigates fear. Training and developing your skill set mitigates fear. I teach speaking. I love teaching people how to speak powerfully. Not to speak to be great, but to speak to be unforgettable. Whether you're a speaker or whether you're a manager, whether you're in retails or network marketing, whatever it is, when you open your mouth, you want to be unforgettable. And people always say, Lisa, how do I overcome the fear of speaking? I say, let's not focus on the fear of speaking, because energy grows where energy goes. So let's not focus on overcoming fear. Let's focus on building a muscle that naturally dissolves fear. And that muscle is the muscle of information, the muscle of education, and the muscle of skill set. So if you know more and then you develop the skill set, you won't be as afraid to do that thing that you're talking about. But the other side to that, now I'm going to disrupt you a bit. So the first part, not so disruptive. That means go get it more information, give fear what fear needs to reduce itself, meaning information skill set. But this other part that I'm going to tell you, this might be disruptive. How about you not try to mitigate, resolve, or get past or overcome, whatever you want to call it? How about you not try to do that with fear? How about you allow the fear to sit with you? You just commit to keep moving, even with the fear. So many times in my life and in my career, I was afraid. The difference between me and most is that I still move forward with the fear. Fear does not have a past to stop you. Fear does not have a past to stop you. First of all, let me just tell you this. Just like compassion, just like love, just like respect, just like any other feeling you feel for someone, fear is just a feeling. We just give fear more power. We say, when compassion comes, I hug, I love. When understanding comes, when joy comes, when humor comes, I laugh. But when fear comes, I get to stop. What if you change the meaning to that? Ooh, just stick with me right here. What if you change your dance with fear? What if you tell fear, you're welcome in my life because you're gonna come. Can't keep you away. But when you come, I'm not going to stop.
I quoted Andrew Carnegie a few minutes ago. He said, any idea that's held in the mind, that's emphasized, that's either feared or revered, begins at once to clothe itself in the most convenient and appropriate form available. Depression it starts out from ignorance, doubt, and worry. I've got a chart, I show it. Doubt and worry is on the negative side of life. Understanding is on the positive side. Right. Doubt and worry comes from ignorance. Understanding comes from knowledge, but you got to study to get it. Doubt and worry are a psychic disease. It's an intellectual exercise. They're using their intellectual factors to build a negative idea, and that's all they see. They take and internalize that, and they get emotionally involved with it. It goes from doubt and worry to fear. They've emotionalized the doubt or worry. Turns into fear. The fear is in the emotional mind, and the emotion must be expressed through the only instrument it can be expressed through, the physical body. So it moves the body into a state we call anxiety. Anxiety is never expressed. Anxiety is suppressed.
You don't know
the suppression turns to depression. They bottle it up inside. They suppressed the fear. It turns into depression. The depression turns into disease. The disease turns into decay. St. Clair Lewis was right. He said, we don't die, we kill ourselves. Now, what is the opposite of all that? You go from ignorance to doubt and worry to fear to anxiety, suppression, depression, disease, disintegration. Go over on the other side. You go from understanding to emotional state called faith. You just know it's going to move into form because you understand the law. Faith isn't believing something you can't see. Strange thing about faith and fear, they both demand you believe something you can't see. Why would people choose fear over faith? Because they're ignorant. So you go from understanding to faith. The faith manifests on the physical plane, not as anxiety, as well-being. The well-being is not suppressed, it's expressed. And the expression turns to acceleration. You're building energy. And that is because there's no dis-ease, you're at ease. And that turns into creation, not disintegration. It's all a mental trip that they're building. Now they go to the doctor gives them Valium or some kind of drug to cool them out. He gets them numb so they don't know what the hell they're doing.
When you really look at the credit, it is improved nutrition and sanitation. So people were dying of malnutrition, which made them more susceptible to infections and other disorders. And then sanitation and vaccination. That's how it's not antibiotics. Let's say it's not pharmaceuticals. It's still conditions of living. Better hygiene, better nutrition. But now the increment to that is understanding what causes accelerated aging. Lack of sleep, stress, unhealthy emotions like hostility and anger and resentments and guilt and shame and depression and anxiety. Lack of mind-body coordination, that's where the yoga and the breathing techniques come in. Poor nutrition. Right now, most of our food that comes to us at home is manufactured, refined, processed, contains chemicals, contains antibiotics, contains steroids because animals are fed that, and even, there are pesticides in the ground which are petroleum products. How does that cause accelerated aging? It causes inflammation of something called the microbiome, which is the genes that are in your gut, which are microbial genes. So 99% of the genetic information in your body right now is not human. You only have 1% of the genes in your body are from your parents. 99% of the genes in your body right now are microbial. You're a few human cells.
I'm a mutant. I'm like an X-Man, is what you're saying. I like that.
You're a few human cells hanging on to a bacterial colony. So when you put food in your mouth, the first thing that the food encounters is these bacterial genes. And if your food is inflamed, then the bacterial genes get inflamed, causes inflammation in the body, you get metabolites that are called cytokines. There's lots of complexity.
Of course you struggle to remember it in your day-to-day life because life is difficult and it's harder to do things than not to do them, and it's harder to do them well than to do them badly. And it's easy to sit around and be hopeless. I don't mean it's emotionally easy because it's not, but it's procedurally easy to be useless and to fall back into your old habits and to not discipline yourself. And it's a matter of continual practice, slow continual practice. And I think a good example of that is something like weightlifting. If you start a weightlifting program, which I would recommend, by the way, because it's tremendously advantageous physically and cognitively, you're not going to really see results for a number of weeks, and then the results are rather slow, but you can get pretty decent results over a 6-month period and absolutely stellar results over a couple of years. And so you have to make sure your time frame is right and not to be too hard on yourself. And I did mention the future authoring program earlier, and one of the things I would recommend too is if you're having a hard time implementing your decisions, say your ethical decisions, that you spend a bit more time thinking them through and writing them down. And the future authoring program is really helpful for that. That's why we designed it. And so get your goals straight and continue to practice every day. And if you're not succeeding, then make your goals slightly smaller. You want to make your goals large enough so that they challenge you, but small enough so that you have a reasonable probability of succeeding at them on a day-to-day basis. And then you have to also understand that if you fail on a given day, like let's say you're trying to quit smoking and you quit for 2 weeks, and then you have a cigarette and you think, oh my God, now I've screwed it up. I'm not quitting anymore. You smoke a whole pack of cigarettes. It's like, well, there's a couple of mistakes there. And one is, well, just because you had a cigarette doesn't mean you failed. It just means that you had a cigarette. You can start stopping again the next day. And the fact that you had one cigarette in the last 2 weeks is a hell of a lot better than the 2 weeks that you had before that. And so you've got to be realistically humble. You've got to be ambitious enough in your goals so that you're pursuing something that you regard as truly meaningful and worthwhile. And maybe you can judge that to some degree if you think about someone you love attempting the same thing and think about how you would feel if they managed it. And if you would feel good, then that's probably a good what would you say? That would be a good evaluation strategy to use on yourself.
The problem with shutting down emotionally is you stop learning. emotional learning stops when you shut down. So you shut down to protect yourself, but for development, you need vulnerability. Vulnerability from the Latin word vulnerare, to wound. So vulnerability is our capacity to be wounded. And nothing grows when it's not vulnerable. A tree doesn't grow where it's hard and thick. It grows where it's soft and green and vulnerable. A crustacean animal, like a crab, cannot grow encased in a hard shell. To grow, it has to mold, make itself soft and vulnerable. Same with children. When children shut down emotionally, they have difficulty learning, especially from negative experience. So they keep repeating the same stuff over and over again, and despite the negative consequences, they learn nothing from it. And then the adult gets exasperated. I've told him 1,000 times not to do it, and he's still doing it. Well, the proper response is, if you've told him 1,000 times, and he's still doing it, who's got the learning problem here? Clearly what we have to do is we have to find out what's going on.
When you focus on where you want to go, you actually go towards it. The more you focus on where you want to be, the more your mind, like a heat-seeking missile, takes you to where you want to be. So if you want to be an Olympic athlete, you'd have to take a lot of action, you'd have to practice a lot and train a lot. If you don't want to do something physical, train your mind, practice with your mind, use mood boards. I've done quite a few radio interviews about why mood boards are so successful, why people who have everything tend to have mood boards. Now, the mood board I made years ago, I put it above my bed, which is an odd thing to do actually, because I face away from it, so I don't look at it every day anymore. But a little while ago I looked at it and I realized that every single thing I put on that mood board had come true. In fact, when I finished with all the things I was going to do as a writer, I put up some pictures. One was hot air ballooning and one was something else. And I realized that every single thing I'd put up, I think one was riding a camel, I'd actually done all of those. So I thought, well, I'm about to make a new mood board now with new things that I wanted. I wrote down some of the countries I wanted to go to. So if you put it above your bed, do make sure that you look at it. Better to put it really on your fridge or in your kitchen or in your office. You can also take a big photograph of it and make that your screensaver and the wallpaper on your phone, because then of course you will look at it every day over and over again. But even though I made that mood board and put it in a place where I didn't look at it and actually looked away from it, guess what? It still worked. So imagine how it would work if it's right in your line of vision, if it's on your computer screen. And I work with many, many women who are having huge problems conceiving, and I get them to make a baby board. Same thing, but it's a picture of a positive pregnancy test colored into yes. It's lots of pictures of babies. I have them also put that on Instagram and on their computer screen so they see it every day, and the success rates with using that baby board are phenomenal. Make your mood board.
How many people do you know, maybe even you, have a job that just kills you? It's draining your energy, you hate going there. Maybe even a company that you started that you thought was going to be exciting, but it's just robbing the life out of you. Or even school, maybe you're in college or even high school, and it just, every moment of it is frustrating. And here's what we do. We think to ourselves, when I get out of this job and I start my own company, then I'm going to be fired up. Then I'm going to be excited. Then I'm going to take my life to the next level. When I get out of school, I'm going to do it. When I throw this company away and I start the new company. And guess what? That's the worst thinking. That type of thinking will keep you exactly where you are. So let me just give you an example. I don't know if you know this about me, but when I was in my teens and my 20s, I worked on cars every single day of my life. I had a collision repair shop. I got wrecked cars and people brought them in and I fixed them. I sucked fumes every day. I had dirt under my nails. Every night I was literally scraping under my nails trying to get piles of dirt out. I changed motors. I rebuilt carburetors. I mean, the worst thing I hated was painting the cars because I got such a headache. Even though we had good ventilation, I'd get such a headache from the fumes. But that's what I did. Did I love painting cars? No. I absolutely despised it. I hated every bit of it. But I was lucky enough to realize that how you do any job is how you do every job. And what I had to do was find things that were exciting in that job because I knew it was the stepping stone. So here's what I believe. So many people hate what they do, their lack of energy. When you don't like something, you're not enthusiastic, you're not excited, you're not nice to people. So you're just thinking, I'm going to get in this groove, but then something's going to snap, and then all of a sudden I'm going to be amazing, I'm going to be excited, I'm going to find that new job, that new career. No, you have to start now. So what you have to do, like I did with the collision shop, is you have to find a way for that dull job, that thing that robs your energy now, to be exciting. Yes, you do. As hard as that sounds, do it to the best of your ability. And guess what? Opportunity comes along in places you won't even realize that there's an opportunity for you. Example. So I'm in the car business, hating it, but I found a way to be enthusiastic because what I liked is I liked the fact that a car would come in wrecked. I could visualize it looking perfect again and visualize how excited the person would be to get their car back to new. So when I was working on cars, I didn't think, oh, I got Bondo on my fingertips, paint on my nails, I got a headache from the fumes, I'm dirty, it's sweaty. If I thought about that, everything would have sucked. But what I thought about was how excited the person's going to be when they see their car back to normal. And I found a way to be enthusiastic and excited. If you asked anybody, they'd be like, that guy loves collision work. It's not true. I wasn't lying. I found a way to manipulate myself. So in that instance, my first big real estate deal, I did several with no money down, worked my butt off to get it done. But my first big real estate deal that after years was the first deal I did over $1 million on, true story, in my little town in upstate New York, a town called Marlboro, New York. And guess who I did the deal with? Somebody who came into the collision shop and I did work on their car, lent me the money. Because I was so enthusiastic, so excited, such in a good mood. The guy's like, how do you have so much energy? How are you so excited? I said, well, this is just a stepping stone for me. I'm working on real estate deals. I've done a few and working on this bigger one. He's like, well, why aren't you doing the bigger one? I'm like, I'm trying to put the money together, but I'll get it. I know I'll make it. That guy lent me $80,000 just like that. And he made a ton of money for it. I mean, I was so appreciative of the loan he gave me. I did everything in my power to make sure that deal.
I think the thing that people misunderstand about success is they're looking for the easiest way to get there. And it's funny, how many books have you read, or I won't say promoted, but had on your show, and everybody goes, 5 easy steps, 10 steps to greatness, 8 steps to this. And those steps for success, they're infinite. They are infinite. You cannot count them. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. Those steps are constantly shifting. You don't know if they're there. Sometimes you have to trust that the next step is going to be there when you can't even see it. And sometimes when you step on that step, you go right into quicksand, but you got to be able to pull yourself back out of it again. So everybody's looking for these steps, and there are no steps. Those steps never end. And you just can't climb steps. Sometimes you got to crawl those steps, and you finally get to the top, and everything shifts, and you're at the bottom again.
It's crazy.
All right.
What does that mean? Sometimes you're at the top, and then you're at the bottom again.
Well, you may get to the top, and you're like, I'm here. And then you look back down and you look up again, you're actually on the first step. You're on the first step again. And where you thought was the top is not even the top. It's the beginning.
Wow.
It's literally the beginning of where you're supposed to be. And that's when most people just quit. It just drives me crazy because everybody's like, people that I do the interview with, I always like to use them as an example because people can relate to that, all right? You've been climbing steps for how long to get to here?
I mean, since starting this, it's been over 8 years, but the journey before then, it was, decades to build myself, to prepare myself for this. And now I feel like I'm just getting started.
Right, exactly. So you have just, right, exactly. So all the steps that you climbed just to get started.
Yeah.
Just to get started. And people don't want to talk about those steps. They don't want to talk about those steps and how difficult those steps are, and how many steps that you stumbled on, and how many steps you didn't even see, and how many steps that people placed in front of you and they pulled pulled away. People that you were very close to, people that you knew, that people that you thought that were like, hey, these people actually have my back. Except, yeah, they did have your back, but they were actually pushing you down the steps.
For stabbing you there.
No, and it's funny when you talk about those things, or people talk about them, they seem surprised. But you should know that in that path, all those things are going to be there.
If I'm having some dark days and sad times, I'm like, I got to get progress. So what I'll do is I'll identify my 5 major moves. If you read this book, High Performance Habits, you know about the 5 major moves. So I identify my 5 major moves, and I'm like, I'll swiftly move towards one, because momentum can shift mindset. And so if I'm in dark, disappointment, down, momentum, like achieve some goals, but here's what's important. Notice I said the 5 major moves. That's what I mean with progress. Because what a lot of people mistakenly do is they just start doing lots of tasks and activities that aren't correlated in any way to the meaningful pursuits of life. So here's what happened. I'm bummed, I'm down, so I'm doing a bunch of work. The next day they still feel bummed and down, because what was their work? It was a bunch of activities that actually didn't matter, that didn't give them any meaning. So if you're down, the most important work you need to be doing is the ones that you do feel connection, enthusiasm, meaning, fulfillment, satisfaction from. Those ones that do intrinsically bring you joy, those are the ones that I want you to progress towards. Matter of fact, I really want you, when you're feeling down, disappointed, major setbacks, dark days, what I really desperately want you to do is stop multitasking and doing all the little like busy work things that don't matter. Like put off. Like if it's Wednesday and you got a stack of bills and they're not due for another 30 days, don't pay the bills that day, because that's not fun. And you got plenty of time to do it later when you feel like, when you get over this funk, like just say, okay, write the date on those bills, pay them but don't do it today, because that's busy work. Instead, today, find an activity that you find to be creative, compelling, engaging, fulfilling, and do that. Progress towards the things that have meaning. That's huge when you're down. But most people don't do that, because what's comforting, just like eating comfort food, is doing low-hanging fruit activity. I'll pay the bills and answer a bunch of emails. But those small little tasks, those don't give you enough bang for the buck to really move through it. And there's a big misconception about that in the culture, including the science, that often says, oh, no, just, if people can complete small steps, small tasks, they'll feel better. And it's like, well, yeah, we all have this reward system in our brain, and a little dopamine will fall out. But do we want a little drip of dopamine, or do we want the floodgates to come open and feel alive?
I turned it around. I did my job in 4 hours, and I was on, there was a wall that separated production from the offices and the lunchroom. Because in production, there was, quality control. You couldn't go in there unless you had hairnets and, protective equipment. So what I did is I borrowed some protective equipment, and I went in there and I started hanging out with the operators, the people that were running the lines, and I started taking their trash outside. And then, if they wanted, this is cool, this is the truth, I don't know, people will like it, but if they wanted a cigarette break, to go outside and smoke, this is the 70s, right? Everybody smokes. So I would say, well, just show me what to do. You'll just be gone for 5 minutes. And they're like, I don't know. Like, oh, come on, I'm a mechanic, I really am, and so they would teach me, how to watch the line, and they would go outside. And I'd do that for a couple of weeks. And so the other managers were telling my manager, like, hey, the guy on your crew that mops in the night, man, hey, I just want to thank you for letting him take my trash out. My guys helped him. And they were like, what? Who did that? And he was like, okay. He was like, no one had ever done that. You heard the old statement, that's not my job. Oh, well, yes. After he told me that, I never said that. I said, I'm employed here. That is my job. That is my job. And And little by little, I learned how to run the Dorito lines. You know how to, and it is like being a pilot. It's not, you know, people say you just make chips. Oh, no, man. It's like you got to go to pilot school to learn how to make Doritos and potato chips and Fritos. Believe me, it takes a couple years to be a master.
We all come to a relationship with like expectations about how we think people should act. And unfortunately, we don't recognize our expectations as expectations. We recognize them as truth. This is how the world is. It is how the world should be. And when we think that they have those same beliefs and values and rules and all that. And so given this scenario, there's only one way to act that is certainly obvious. And so when the person doesn't act like that, we take it personally, like, whoa, do you not respect me? Do you not love me? Do you not care about me? And it just isn't that. They have a different set of beliefs and rules. There's enough nuanced difference that they're not, if they're intending to hurt you, you have a whole different set of problems. But assuming that they're not intending to hurt you, then you have a communication problem. So Lisa and I actually define our terms. So we have a few words in our marriage that they mean something. So if I say, hey, baby, it's important to me that you leave that, glass of water on the table, then she just wouldn't move it, period. Simple as. Like, the word important like comes in all caps with exclamation points glowing red. Like that's like when we say it, like it's a drop whatever you're doing, like it's important that you do X, Y, or Z. Now the big thing is when you define a word like that, you can't ever abuse it. So like I would never say it's important to me that you leave it. It's gotta be just extraordinary. Like how many times do I tell her something's important in a year? I don't know, 6, 7 times in a year. So it's like, it's really gotta be limited. And then another one is promise. If I say, I promise I'm gonna do that, dude, I'm going to do that. Like there's no two ways about it. So you never throw around promise, ever, under any circumstance. And so, dude, it's like, you really, really have to be hardcore. And the other way that we use promise is, if she says, how does this dress look on me? I'm like, yeah, it looks great. And she's like, you promise? Then it's like, all right, it makes you look fat. What can I say? You know what I mean? It's like, but then you cut to like the chase on something. Now, the thing is, you can't say that all the time. You can't be like, how's this dress make me look? Fine, promise. What do you think of this dinner? You like it? Yeah, I love it, promise. Like if you're doing that, it loses everything.
Totally.
But if you're saving it for like, in fact, God, I almost don't remember the last time I asked Lisa to promise something like that. But you know that you haven't. We certainly used it more in the early days of our marriage. But even then, like how many times a year? 3 or 4? I mean, it's like, but it really forces you to respect these things that you make sacred in your relationship.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you're different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. If you want to learn how to develop good habits and break bad habits, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
One of the laws is to make it obvious. And this largely comes down to like what we're exposed to each day. And minimalism and simplicity plays a big role in this. In the book, I call it environment design. That's basically the strategy.